Hello. Welcome to the stream, and today I have the black light on because I refuse to actually get up and turn on my light. So it's gonna look a little weird, but it's gonna be easier on my eyes if I use that as opposed to the bright light. Anyway, welcome to Our Life. I found this game because I was broke and I was bored of every game in my library, and I was like, you know what? Let's play it. And then I fell in love with it. And it's actually a really good game. Premise is you grow up with a boy. Uh, I've already done my very personal playthrough. Um, and right now I'm doing some achievement hunting, which is why I'm doing this. I also bought the DLC so I can still play through some new stuff on stream. It's actually a pretty long game. I think my first playthrough was 15 hours. Uh, and the DLC is going to add much more. So I figure you do a couple streams and get through this game. Because I think it has 3 or 4 stages. 4. And so we're going to go through the first stage today. And yeah, it should be fun. So without further ado, let's get into this. You know, it would be easier if my stuff was already set up. Anyway. I need better internet. Anyway, let's get into this. I have started a thing that I'm gonna do on my own. So let's get into one specifically, a game specifically for stream. Boom. Uh, yes, because you have to watch this. Welcome to Our Life Beanie. And always, there are various ways you can customize and interact with the game. This is a tutorial and overview of how certain features work. We're gonna go through this, and with a lot, because y'all haven't seen this yet. You can read the full tutorial from the main menu to learn about everything in detail. To start off, the game is divided into 4 time periods called steps. Step 1, childhood. Step 2, adolescence. Step 3, young adult. And step 4, adult. Our life is further divided into sets of vintages that take place during specific periods of time. Those are called moments. Moments can be played in any order or skipped entirely. You move on to the next step whenever you want by selecting that summer is ending. Step 1 through 3 is divided into 5 moments, and each and even more can be unlocked by purchasing DLCs. Some are out now, and other DLCs will be released later. There's one I've already seen for a character that I will buy when it comes out. Step 4 is an epilogue and doesn't include moments. A lot happens over the years that go by, especially in regards to the characters you play as. You determine nearly everything about the main character: name, appearance, personality, pronouns, interests, skills, their relationship with major characters, and so on. You can decide to change the details as time goes on, with a few exceptions. Your last name, skin tone, eye color cannot be altered once set. Much of the MC basic traits are determined on character creation screen. As the MC grows up, more options become available on the screen. As mentioned, one of the decisions you'll get to make for your character is selecting a name. You can type any name you would like, or you can pick the preset name. Preset options are called voice names because the names will be voiced aloud by the romantic lead. You'll get to hear him say your name as you play through the story. Only the default name, Jamie, is included in the base game. Hundreds more can be added by getting the free voice name expansion, which I have and we will use. The full collection of names is separated out as DLC because of how large it is. If you are not interested in that feature, you don't need to get it. Each name of the DLC belongs to or was selected by someone who supports this project. On the character creation screen, there is a cute doll you can decorate to get an idea of what your MC looks like with different traits together. Not all the things you decide about the MC appear on the doll. The script referring what you've decided for the MC is the main way those decisions influence the game. Our life is a first-person perspective, so your character does not appear next to other character sprites. You will only see the MC as a decorative doll, and in special cut-in CG images. Ugh. The cut-in CGs only appear if certain choices are made, and it's possible not to see any during your playthrough. Mine, I got a lot of them. It was really pretty. They're really well done. There are also second types of special MC screens in the interest/comfort screen. Unless you get DLCs, the game has one love interest, Cove Holden. He grows up with the MC. The interest/comfort screen is crucial for determining how that plays out. Interest level sets how much you like him. There are 4 levels: disinterest, fond, crush, and love. Love is only available starting in step 3, and if you were at fond or crush in step 2. Comfort determines how you would generally react when it comes to him. There are 3 levels: nervous, relaxed, and direct. I did relaxed. We'll probably do nervous or direct. Your level of interest and comfort will set the type of dynamic your character has with the love interest. What you did in the past will influence the present, and feelings can change over time. You get to pick interest/comfort near the beginning of every step. Comfort can switch between the 3 levels as you please. Your interest level can only stay at the same or increase. Your current level of interest will become the new lowest option in the screen in the future. For example, if you decide to be fond in step 1, disinterest will not be available on screen in step 2 and 3, which will make fond bottom level option for your relationship. Interest level has an impact when it comes to physical interacting with Cove. While growing up, things are rather simple. If you get along with one another, have a close relationship, you can choose to touch him, and Cove will occasionally interact with the MC lighthearted or comforting ways. But starting in step 3, touching can become more romantic and suggestive if you're at crush or love. To make things go nicely with that, there will be an extra choice determining initiative level in the bonus mini tutorial that goes along with the choice to explain the feature in more detail. Basically, even if you decide you like Cove, the game won't force you to act on those feelings. You can always choose not to get together with him, choose not to accept or give romantic gestures, etc. If you do decide to date Cove, though, you can't break up with him later. Interest/comfort gets the basics down, but it is the choices that appear throughout the normal game events that decide what actually happens between the MC and Cove. I started a second playthrough already, and the options I chose were different, and I'm already seeing options that were available in my first run that aren't available anymore because of different choices I've made. Because I'm trying to do achievement hunting. And it isn't only the MC who is impacted by your decision. Cove grows and changes over the years. He will treat and what he experiences help shape who he becomes. In step 2 and 3, Cove's personality, appearance, and interest will vary based on what happens in the previous step. It's something of a mystery exactly how your decisions end up changing him. You can try to guess as you go along. Or if you prefer, you can also design your own idea of Cove directly using the Cove Creator option that pops up at the beginning of the step. And we will not be doing that because we're going to see how our decisions affect him. Making the choices you want is always more important than making the choices because you feel like you have in order to get a certain result. When a choice does appear, usually you will see hovering over the cursor over an option shows a certain yellow, blue, or green. These colors aren't really specific points or effects, they are only there to give a bit of insight, tone, and emotion of the choice, since text alone can potentially be read in more than one way. Blue tends to be casual, straightforward, yellow more emotional, reactive, and green less certain, uncommitted. Though there are hundreds of options in our life, and not every choice menu falls in line with that pattern, picking just one color every time does not give a gameplay benefit. Only stick to a certain type if that's what you happen to like. Sorry. To like. Otherwise, switch between them freely. Always pick yellow. Never pick yellow. Pursue romance right from the start. Never romance the love interest. Be disagreeable or amiable. None of them will lead to a bad ending. You're welcome to enjoy the events and shape the story without reservation. And then, if you like, you can play again and try something new. There's only ever one more good content to discover. We hope you'll have a nice time with our life. Thank you for playing. What I like about this game is it's very customizable. It's very user-friendly, and I get to decide basically everything about my character. They're also very not pushy about the romance and things, and I really liked it just because of the freedom that this game provided. Now, We're going to go. Let's pick an E name. We're going to go with Airy. That's a good kind of gender neutral name. Last names. We're going to use one of my OC's last names because that's just how I like to do this. One sec. Gotta make sure I have the right spelling. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't like those eyes. Go with some relaxed. Those are some neutral eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't like that hair. That seems like a good neutral. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're gonna match it because I'm weird and I think I passed it. There we go. All right. Change page. Can't really see that one. There we go. It'll be cute. I have rosy cheeks, some freckles. Gonna be slender. I have glasses, so we're gonna have glasses. High glasses. There we go. We're gonna use they because it's neutral. And now we go on. No. I think freckles all over. Pants and shirt that's neutral. I like to wear watches and necklaces and hats. Alright, we're going to say done. Now that we're through everything, I can stop reading like my life depends on it. Summer in Sunset Bird was a special time of year. Your usually sleepy town begins to bustle. It was a popular tourist destination with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, the weather, and the relaxation that came with both. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of schoolless vacation with it. During the summer, your moms didn't like you to wander too far outside of your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Families came and went from Sunset Bird, but they mostly stayed and did what your mom called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice young kids who waved when passing their stores. Going for a walk around town mostly meant that familiar, friendly residents waved or asked how your family was, or most often just said hello. We're a kid. Kids are usually pretty nervous. So, you didn't really get why they always had to say hi. They saw you every day, but you nodded back at them anyway. It seems a little too friendly for strangers. You ended up saying hi to a lot of people, different people, since most of the tourists that came and went every summer were the same ones. Still a little too direct for children. You were too anxious to say hi back. Most of the other residents that greeted you, but they all knew you well enough to expect that. I like that one. That seems correct. They still smiled at you anyway, and that made you feel a little more comfortable. Also, I was a really nervous child, so even though this is my less personal playthrough, it's still going to be a little personal to me. Because nervous child, my nervous energy is going to be this character's nervous energy. Today there was a man sitting on the curb outside your house. He was sitting with his head in his hands, whole body slumped over at you, wondering if he was even a real person or a statue that magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever or whatever he was, you had never seen him before. One thing about knowing everyone in Sunset Bird was that people who you didn't recognize really stood out. It was rare for a tourist to venture into the residential district, as your mom called it. So for you, not knowing who a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags. Your mom had to talk with you and your big sister Lizzie about this kind of situation before. You hadn't exactly been listening at the time. You think it could be okay to talk to new people. They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even if you don't know them. You remember that it's okay to run away if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about being polite to them. We're going to do that. You weren't sure about this man yet. You still felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking for a door, but you were pretty interested. You wanted to know more about what was going on. Whether he was nice or not, you didn't want to be bothered. I feel like this is the appropriate reaction for a child. They're in their own little world. You slowed down as you thought about how you could get around this. It was a split second where your eyes met, and that wasn't good. He was probably going to say something now that he had seen you standing around here. Hey. You're right, his deep voice called out to you. You didn't say anything. Unfortunately, the man stood up and started to make his way towards you. Not wanting to seem too approachable, you folded your arms, still unsure about him, but willing to be friendly, you offered the stranger a smile. Your whole body froze in place as he approached. Well, there's no run away option. But we don't want to seem approachable. So, you live around here? What's your name? You looked the man up and down, taking in his tan skin and relaxed appearance. At least his clothes were relaxed. The way he was acting wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo, and you wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, waiting for an answer to his question. We're not going to tell this man where we live. Say nothing. If you do, he rubbed the back of his neck uncomfortably, giving you a small smile. Money. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hand as he held it up to you. Even more confused than before, you looked back at him. Well, could you do me a favor? Nothing bad. Sorry. Let me start over. He cleared his throat and stood up straighter. From where you were standing, it just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name's Cove. Who's about your age. Cove, that seemed like a strange name for an actual living person. You chewed on the inside of your cheek. This guy was definitely obsessed with water. You thought it was pretty cool. Strange name for a person. Most children. They immediately are just like, oh, that's weird. But definitely the kind of name someone like this guy would give their kid. Moved in across the street, see? He gestured towards the house that had been empty for a year, his watch catching the late afternoon sun reflecting off the walls. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. You must be Ari Payne, right? I met your moms earlier. They told me you were 8, just like him. So, he shook the $20 bill, bringing it back to your attention, a hopeful smile tilting his lips to corners. Can you try to be friends with the boy? Just give it a chance, and you can keep this. He's a good kid. You'll like him. But you've got to keep it a secret, too. It wouldn't be friendly to say his dad said to you. You eyed the man. You felt kind of sorry for Cove. Did the kids really get their parents to pay for friendship? I feel like most kids would be like, what the fuck? Had your moms done that for you and Liz, the thought made you frown. What do you say? You want to make a deal? I say we ran away. Okay, we don't take money from strangers. That's like your parents telling you to not take candy from strangers or get into their vans. You run. You spun around and made a break for it. Stranger danger would be the effective, deterrent because kids should not be talking to no strangers. We also have, no thanks, old man. You don't offer any explanation. You just focus on getting away. I feel like most kids just would yell something. But stranger danger feels appropriate. You turned on the spot and bolted down the street, ignoring his calls from behind you. Hey! Come back. I'm sorry if I scared you. I don't Know how else to ask? The soles of your shoes slapped against the concrete sidewalk as you ran, heat from the sun warm on your face. Children. No. Step 1. First sight. Eventually, his shouting faded into the distance. You let yourself slow down and try to catch your breath, wiping the sweat from your forehead with the back of your hand. The chirping of crickets in the tall, dry grass echoed around you, and you lifted your head to survey your surroundings. You'd run right into the hills behind your house's backyard. From here, you could probably get back inside without the guy seeing you again. There was a loose plank on the black fence, too small to fit through, but you could try waving for Lizzie. The fence was pretty high. If you stood on the neighbor's shorter fence post first, you might be able to pull yourself over. You would be able to hide here until you left, then you'd go through the front door. I feel like most children are inclined to climb things. Let's climb. Your moms wouldn't want you doing something like that, but it was an emergency. You took a deep breath. You wanted to try to relax, but you couldn't. You weren't sure what, but something told you that you weren't alone, so you glanced around. The child. There was a boy sitting in the top of the hill, almost completely hidden with the long grass and white flowers surrounding him. His head was buried in his knees, staring ahead by himself. For whatever reason, probably just that he wasn't paying attention, he hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you'd found a deer in the wild. You thought a deer didn't have green hair, wavy eyebrows, huge glasses, pink cast, sad frowns. Huh. I was like glasses. But this new boy did. You watched as he pushed them up the bridge of his nose with with a finger. After a few more seconds, you took a step forward, then another. Then he glanced your way. His aquamarine eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped, raising a hand to acknowledge him and show you weren't scary. I feel like that's appropriate. Kids would be more inclined to say that. But I feel like we should be a little aggressive. Let's call him a space cadet. With a start, he jumped to his feet, hand balled and fist at his sides. He didn't say anything, just stared at you in a strange way. He'd been crying. There were traces of tears on his cheeks, and his knees soaked the hem of his shorts. His eyes were still shining with a few more. You'd obviously caught him off guard. He was your age, but didn't look familiar. Maybe he was the boy that weird new neighbor had been talking about before you ran. The only way to actually know was to ask. Uh, what's your name? You waited for him to say something, or who are you? I've never seen you. I feel like kids are instinctively curious. We're going to go with, who are you? I've never seen you. He sniffled a little, rubbing at the ruddy knees before he answered. My name is Cove. I'm. You could see him hesitate, shifting his eyes to the side, then back at you again. My dad and me, we moved here. Your guess was confirmed. So, is this your hill? He gestured with his uninjured arm at the patch of grass surrounding you, his face falling apart at the prospect. I can leave if it is. Okay, so first of all, we ran here because it's behind our house. So we have yep, you can't own a hill, or you shook your head. I feel like let's be a little feisty. Bye then. Wait, you can stay. I'm not kicking you out. But you said I don't have to make people leave just because it's not theirs, or the other people can visit. His face relaxed a little at that, and he toed the grass beneath his shoes timidly. Oh. He sat back down with a thump, resting his chin on his knees again. Curious about the strange new boy with the odd dad, you sat on the patch of grass next to him. The pure white flowers that covered this hill rocked back and forth gently as the stars twinkled above. The way they dotted the sky made them seem like little flowers too. The night wind was cool as it traveled over the ocean and up the hill, chasing away the heat from the afternoon sun. Why are you here, or why'd your family move? I feel like kids would want to ask both. But honestly, I've heard more people be like, why'd your family move? Then why are you here? Like, why hiccup a cove as soon as you ask the question? Almost like they'd never stopped, his tears started up again with a vengeance. My parents, they don't want to live together with me anymore. His tears fell and heavy, fast and heavy over his flushed cheeks, sticking in his dark lashes. I'm sorry, I'm just really excited. So I'm giggling at things, even though, like, I should not probably be giggling at this. This is a child crying. My mom made my dad leave, and he took me with him, and now we have a house here. I want to go home. The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heavy with exhaustion. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping his eyes with the backs of his hand before putting them back on again. I hate this place. I want my real life back. I feel like most kids are emotional like that if they move. I want my mom. Okay, kids are not just gonna be like, stop crying. They're either like, I'm sorry, but I feel like this would be a good one. You'll like it here if you just get used to it. He slipped his hand under his glasses and pressed his fingers against his eyelids. Cove wound himself up again for another long crying fit. Sunset Bird was a nice place to live. At a beach, playgrounds, a good school. At least you thought so. But from way off in the distance, you heard your parents. Airy. Cove. Kids, where did you go? Where did you come from? Where'd you go? Where did you hail from, Cotton Eye Joe? I'm sorry. Cove looked at you, tears still clinging to his cheeks. Don't tell them we're here. I don't want to go back to the house. I want to go home. You can handle it. You have to go. Don't worry so much. Sorry, I have to. We'll be okay. I feel like kids will be like, you got this. So you can handle it. You can handle it. And even if you can't, he's your dad, right? Yeah, he is. Dusting off the grass off your pants, you stood up. So, you didn't come here by yourself or with a stranger. He's got to take care of you no matter what. Slowly, Cove stood up with you, still looking a little reluctant. His dad's voice rang out again. Cove, can you hear me? He looked towards the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away while rubbing not his bandaged arm. Sorry, I still don't want to go. Well, let's just wait here with him then. Yeah, I get it. You do? Before you could answer, you heard Cove's dad even closer than before. There you are, bud. The trio of parents appeared on the curve over the hill. Instantly, all their eyes landed on you, and they rushed over. Both your moms were at your sides in a split second, faces still with worry. Ari, you're here after all. We had been at the park to check for Cove, and then I heard what happened earlier when you met your neighbor. I thought you might have gone off further away. No, we're just sitting in the grass. Why is everybody acting like it's such a big deal? We're okay, don't worry. Cove don't want to go home just yet. Okay, to be fair, we just stopped. Like, he doesn't want to go. So Cove didn't want to go just yet. Mommy gave Cove a small smile, and then she turned back to you. Thank God you're both fine. Are you two having fun out here? You looked over at Cove, who was wiggling against his dad's tight hug, and pushed at his arms. You shrugged. Yes, you like him? He's good. I think I'm gonna marry him. I think I'm gonna go with I feel like shrugging isn't enough of an answer. He's good. I think I'm gonna marry him. A little too much for a child. And yes, I like him. It's like an appropriate response, but like, I feel like it's too soon to judge this kid. You didn't think that was the right word to describe it, but you weren't sure what else to say to your moms. Finally letting go of his squirming, scowling son, Cove's dad turned to the three of you. Thank you very much for finding him. I really don't know this neighborhood. Good thing Ari knows this whole area so well. Absolutely. We should get going home now. It's been a long day for us all. Say goodbye, Cove. Bye. The two of them walked off in the darkness, heading towards the neighborhood. Watched Cove's bright pink cast until it disappeared. Tell you what, We'll have a proper play date tomorrow, okay? Your new friend's dad wanted to bring him by to see you and Liz. How does that sound? Sure, I can show him my stuff. Sounds like words. You nodded, ducking your head down. Okay, me, I was always either nodded, ducking my head, or sure, I can show him my stuff. Can I show him my stuff? Sorry. I feel like let's just nod and keep our head down. We did just yell. Stranger danger. Both your moms laughed and the sound overlapping into warm, familiar chorus. Mommy put her arm around your shoulder and led you towards the path. Satisfied, more than a little ready to go to bed after your long, exciting day, you followed them home. Choose your feelings for Cove. This is how you feel towards Cove this step. It can change in later steps. Okay, I feel like we are already kind of like direct with him either way. We don't know him yet. We're being indifferent to him. Okay? We don't know this man yet. Indifferent. You won't be able to change it again until step 2. Which is fine, I guess. Early the next morning, you were poking at your food, eating it slowly. Your sister Liz had run out earlier to go play, but you had stayed put. Today, just like your mom had promised, Cove was coming over to hang out. Excited to see your new friend again, huh, Ari? We're not friends, really. With that said, are you done with your breakfast? Yeah? Ha, I don't know, am I? Your bowl is entirely empty, so you nodded. I feel like that's a little too sassy. Kids are sassy, but not that much. But yeah, that seems good. With all the exasperation an 8-year-old can muster, you looked at your empty cereal bowl, then at your mom. Okay, attitude kid, we see. Good job. He should be here soon. Cleanup began, and then on cue, there was a knock. It was hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they were at the right place. Still loud, though. We need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know. Ari, could you go get it? Because Mom said so, you wandered over to the door. Hey, Payne family. Thanks for having us. Mr. Holden, as your moms have called him, and his son were here. Cove looked different in the bright light of your living room than when he wasn't crying. His dad standing in front of him, and him and Mom and Mommy behind you. You and Cove looked at each other. You studied Cove apathetically. This was their parents' plan, not yours. Not seeming any more excited than you were, he just stared back. Do you want to go play in your room, Ari? Sure. I've got some cool stuff. Come look. Okay. Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids. See you later, son. Play nice. You led him to your room, puffing out your chest a little bit at the sight of your treasure. There was a lot of stuffed animals, a cool bed, and a window to look out. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it in a while, but you were really proud of it. You leaned a little closer to one of your drawings on the wall. I like this. Me too. I drew that. Thank you. I don't. I feel like I was very proud, and I'd be like, I drew that. So we're going to do that. Cool. You smiled at him. You were proud of that particular piece of art, and you were glad he noticed it. He turned to look around the room a little more, studying the books on your desk and the pictures on the walls. You started to feel a bit nervous. You felt the atmosphere was kind of awkward. We're glad for the company. You hoped he liked your room. I feel like kids don't really notice an awkward atmosphere. I feel like they do get nervous. You hoped he liked your room. I feel like most kids are like, oh my god, I hope they like it. So we're gonna go with that. You'd put a lot of effort into making your room as nice as it was. You hoped he didn't say anything bad about it. Then his eyes landed on a tiny box of beach things you'd collected, tucked away by your door. He took a step towards it before hesitating and pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found on the beach? That's exactly the shit I did. I ran around I collected sticks and rocks. Like, when I graduated from 6th grade, My teacher wrote a rap for all of us, and mine was about me walking into class, her telling me to empty my pockets, and there being green and purple goo and assorted treasures in my pockets. And to be fair, it wasn't far from the truth. Do you have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box into the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. I do. Look. You gestured to a piece of the bottom still covered with specks of sand. Neat. This is a good collection. See? He knows a good collection. He knows what's up. You got the sense from the tone of his voice that he wasn't just saying it to be nice or to be like Shiloh. Shiloh. I don't know how to pronounce that name. We're going to go with Shiloh. He actually meant it. I forgot about Shiloh. Shiloh? He's friends with my older sister, and he's supposed to hang out here. He's supposed to hang out here this afternoon. Do I have to see him? You don't have to do anything, but he's going to be here. Anyway, I found this gigantic shell here stuck to an even bigger rock. You pulled out a seashell after seashell, explaining where you'd gotten each one, holding them up against the light. There were big ones, small ones, pink, purple, and orange. Most of them you washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. Over the past few years, you'd even learned some of their names. The collection was so huge and varied that you had lots of funny stories to tell for all of them. Your voice faltered a little bit, but you kept going as best you could. I'm autistic. I learned everything. If I was obsessed with something, I knew everything about it. So we're going to go with, we learned the scientific names. You had a whole picture book dedicated to different shells and sea life. You learned a lot by flipping through its pages. Apparently, fascinated by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like the full force of his attention. It was a new experience to be the center of such dedicated focus, even if it was only directed at the shells. Kids, come down to the living room. I'm going to pause for a second. We're going to make this a little more interesting. I would also like to lead with the fact that I am 21. So my voice is can't keep going without liquids. But all I have in my room is alcohol. So, cheers. Sour apple. Delicious, by the way. Warm. Kids, come down to the living room. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't really giving you much of a chance to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting you. You guessed it was because you found each other by accident, and his parents didn't make it happen. Mr. Holden must be right that telling Cove his dad was part of that would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you'd both been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room, ready for Shloe's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of shells. I wanted to keep looking at them. Great. Okay, but be careful. You should have asked. Okay, if somebody I just met took something from my room and asked me first, I'd be very upset. You should have asked. Sorry. Fine. What's done is done. You opened the lid, peering inside again. Cove reached in and pulled out a big orange shell. Oh! Like he hadn't spoken out loud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. I think this one is the best of them. That's my favorite too. I like a different one best. I can show it to you. You can take it. Okay, I was always that kid like, you like it, you can have it. Like, we're gonna be a little sassy and be like, I like a different one. I'll show you. You reach into the box and take out one of the one you preferred. Cove looked on with interest. The two of you were still sitting on the floor looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person hadn't knocked, he figured it was probably Shiloh. He knew where to look for that. Lizzie's friend? You nod, but didn't seem to make Cove feel better. It was already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. It's just Shiloh, and where would we even go? He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you. Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused, with his gaze locking on the back of the house. I can go out the window. He was already walking towards it, scrambling to think of something to say. You stepped forward, then paused. Do you want to break your other arm? So was the least scary person alive. True up. Slow's gonna like you. Please don't get hurt. I'll come with you. Let's go. That's a good idea. 1. I was a nervous child. 2. I was afraid of everything. So we are not jumping out the fucking window. I would be like, do you want to break your other arm? Because, dude, you have a broken arm in the first place. Why the fuck are you climbing out the window? Even I don't jump out of any of the windows here. And this is my house. The distance from the first floor living room window wasn't far, but you could tell it made Cove nervous anyway. He touched the cast on his arm. The wind had clearly released from his sails. I don't want to break any more bones. I don't think anybody wants to. I have broken too many for that shit. Yeah. But I don't want to see him. I don't know him. You teased him, you comforted him, you encouraged him. We're being a little sassy. We're gonna tease him. What a chicken! You've got to see new people every day walking down the street. So what? Slowly poked his head into the living room. It was impossible to know for sure if he'd heard what you'd been saying or not, but you guessed that he had. Hi, Ari. And hi, Cove. Cove shot an uneasy glance. Hi. I'm Shiloh. It's nice to meet you. Yeah. You have a lot of freckles. Again, kids point out the stupidest things. Right, I do. What are you guys doing? We're looking at shells. Awesome, can I do it too? Cove shrugged, then looked back at your box of beach finding. What about that one? The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at the beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else. This is a scallop shell I found last week. I kept it because it looks neat. It's a pretty cool color, kind of like my cast. The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is a nice color. Okay. Is it your favorite? Not really. What is? Maybe green or blue. Might be yellow. Oh, those are all cool colors, I guess. I do like those colors. There are better colors. Not sure how to deal with the suddenly more awkward silence. You look back at your shells. Okay. Again, kids, not perceptive. Kids would be like better colors. But I do like those colors. Awesome. Like usually, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Liz was his favorite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't that much like you either. Is Liz coming back? I don't know. Ah. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach, probably. Is she playing at the park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park, and he looked towards you. There's a park? Yep. It's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started getting up before you even had an answer. Slow jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do? Really? You do too, right, Ari? The park is fun. I did love the park. I love the park. Yeah, it's right at the beach, so there's lots of fun stuff to do and lots of sand. It has a jungle gym and a bunch of swings. That sounds like it could be cool. So, are we gonna go find Liz? Shiloh and Liz. They're gonna fall in love. I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. I just want to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh finally turned to you. Okay. He perked up, both of you wanted to go, it was only fair. After getting permission from your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Liz had convinced your moms that it was so short she should always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging out in the jungle gym, swimming back and forth. Hey, Liz! Her face lit up when she saw you, her big brown eyes going wide. Aries, Shallow, hi. She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Shallow had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now Cove was there. You weren't sure if that was an improvement. Who's that? That's Cove. He's new. I remember. Hi, Cove. Welcome to my park. Nobody comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured wildly with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. When Liz continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wiggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? It's in this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are? Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Liz is the oldest. By a lot. Mom said you're Aries' age. Yeah. I would also like to say the only reason I know how to pronounce the name I picked is because I watched My Hero Academia, like a nerd. Thought so. I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. What about the other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Shallow is just visiting from another place. Sassy. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful. The oldies don't try to steal your youth. Oh. For a second, it looked like he might cry again, but something in his eyes shifted, and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Only some of them don't like kids. Stop saying stuff like that. You're gonna upset him. Yeah, they're really bad. Yeah, I was really paranoid of old people just because, like, I was paranoid of old people. Because some of them could be really mean for no reason. You went along with her, wiggling your fingers menacingly at Cove. He sniffled, his forehead creasing with worry. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Shallow was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Liz and Ari in school. You'll see a ton of kids there once summer is over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shallow looked down at the dirt. He hasn't had much luck striking up a conversation with Cove. I like summer vacation a lot too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Liz laughed. At Shallow's discomfort at how weird she thought Cove was, and something else entirely you didn't really know. But she laughed, face scrunched up. Welcome to Sunset Bird Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. Is right. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Shallow on some days. And on some days when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Liz. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way the sun and lunch and the beach were. That first summer, you hadn't really been interested in him one way or the other. He was just kind of a fact of life, someone you met with because he was there. Of course, that was only the start of things. Okay, so I have played through all of these. So these are what I'm more interested in. So these ones, if you like these, you should get it to watch these. Because for this, I don't know if I'm going to do everything, but I know I'm going to do all the DLC. We're going to start with the library. Every year, Sunset Bird Memorial Library held a summer reading program. Your moms and Lizzie were big fans of it. Mom and Mommy because it encouraged reading, and Liz because she could win prizes. When it came to what you thought of having to read a bunch of books and then going to the library with a competitive Liz. You loved it, you didn't care, you hated it. Okay. I loved books. I didn't have a lot of friends, so I love books. Each time, it'd been one of the highlights of your summer, and you'd never been shy about letting your parents know that. You and Liz went with Shiloh before, and this year you brought Cove too. His dad had been over the moon about Cove being included, that he'd driven all four of you. You'd never you had never been in Cove's dad's car before. It seemed a lot shinier than your mom's. After hurting the group inside, Mr. Holden gave you all a wild wave wide wave with the arm that had a stingray on it. Have fun, kids. Stay inside of the librarians, you hear? I wish I could watch you in action, but your poor old dad has to finish up some work. Though I'm sure that won't get in the way. Heck, I'd probably hold you kids back. There was pointedly no reply from his son over what was likely meant as only a joke. Cove's dad seemed to deflate a bit. I'll swing around again when the shindig ends. Yeah, you can go home now. You don't have to throw me out the door. Your sister already in full competition mode. Come off. For once, Cove looked grateful she was there. We have to go find a table, Mr. Holden. You can talk to Cove after, when we win. Okay. See you in about an hour. Have fun. Did I say that already? My advanced age was really catching up to me now. Bye, Dad. Bye, son. The four of you watched him shuffle out of the library, glancing over his shoulder at Cove more than once. Bye, Mr. Holden. Thank you for bringing us. Thanks, Liz. I don't know what you're thanking me for. Are you copying Shiloh? Sorry, I got a text. Distracted, Cove was already glancing around the gigantic library. I want to go explore. What? I said I want to go look around and see what's in here. But the quiz starts soon. That's why we came. Why did the first sign of conflict? Shiloh's eyes darted between Liz and Cove. Then you can do it without me, right? You don't need a bunch of people. Didn't your dad say to stay with the librarians? You shouldn't go somewhere by yourself. Cove leveled an unimpressed stare at both of them. Then his eyes met yours. Cove's idea is more fun. I'll stick with Liz. I'd rather go exploring. The quiz sounds better. Go to Cove, stay next to Lizzie. Okay, first of all, if it's a library, the librarian should be everywhere, not just at this table. Also, they're doing quizzes. Exploring sounds more fun, honestly. Seriously? Cove looked surprised, but happy at the same time. You talked about how much you'd enjoyed this on the ride over, so he probably hadn't been expecting you to side with him. Ugh, fine, let's go, Shiloh. Okay. Her arms folded, your sister stormed off. Shiloh had to race to keep up with her. She cares a lot about that. Yeah, Liz gets really competitive. I can tell. Since you've been here a lot before, we could play hide and seek. Hide and seek? Not exploring? Yep, if I'm searching for you and you're searching for me, you really have to look at everything. You weren't entirely sure how effective that would be, but couldn't say he was totally wrong. I'll hide first. Of course he wants to hide first. Decision made, Cove took off towards the back of the library. You'd already agreed to play with him instead, so you covered your face and waited for 10 seconds. When you looked up again, he was nowhere to be seen. You glanced over towards the way he went. Cove hadn't had much time to hide, but he was already invisible. And the place you decided to check was... I think solar systems. Your library solar system display was pretty neat. And all the planets from the sun on out, and it was on its own little section hidden in the science books. But you saw a tiny pair of familiar shoes poking out from under the earth, so you leaned around it. I knew our home planet didn't have legs. Oh, hey! You turned back to Earth and its tiny moon. From this spot, I think it's supposed to be a solar eclipse. It kind of blocks out the sun. You looked at it, tilting your head. He was right. This was something you always walked by, but you'd never noticed before. Hide and seek did seem to be working out for finding interesting things. Your turn now. I'm going to cover my eyes and count to 10. I promise I won't peek. While Cove had his eyes securely behind the palms of hand. He went to go hide. With a fire awareness station near stuffed animals and a giant piece of fruit, by the outlaw poster, the fantasy sections near the toddler books. Okay, I liked fantasy and dystopian novels, so that's where we're going. Decided to hide from Cove in the fantasy section. He'd never really mentioned being interested in fantasy, so he had pretty good odds of hiding for a while there. If he didn't pay attention to it or read it much, he might just glance over it. And you were right, sort of. He left you waiting for a while, long enough that you eventually pushed yourself to your feet to stretch your legs. You won the round, but Cove wasn't even trying. Over the edge of his shelf, you saw him standing, staring at a bunch of books. Hey, you almost found me. Cove's shoulders tensed in alarm. Sorry, I was gonna come find you soon. It's alright. He gestured to the shelf full of books. The one he had in his hand clearly been taking all of his attention up. They say the Narnia series. They're the Narnia series. They have talking animals and magic, land, and intense fights. And my mom used to read them with me. Oh. Her favorite one was Susan. You weren't sure what to do. You weren't sure what he would do. His mom was always a sensitive subject topic. But he tucked the book back on the shelf, and that was all. It was nice. The memories made him happy instead of sad this time. It's my turn again. Start counting so I can go pick a spot. Okay. Cove darted off before you even had a chance to fully close your eyes. 1 Mississippi. When the time was up, he was long gone again. There was still a lot of good places to hide, so you figured he was in the old Christmas stuff next to the Kid Detective poster behind the Willy Wonka statues. Okay, it's not Christmas time, so he probably hid there, because he'd think we'd never look. The library had left all of the Christmas things out, tucked away in a corner for months. It was the perfect place to hide. And sure enough, as soon as you crouched down and peered behind the fuzzy green man with the word Grinch above his head, there was Cove. That was so fast. Me and Mr. Grinch were just getting settled. You looked at the gigantic frowning doll. It seemed to be scowling at you the way it did at everybody all the time. All the littler kids, I'm sorry, it's like Rugrats, like littler kids are scared of him. So, Shaloy, I'm not surprised. I don't think he's a little funny looking. Let's keep playing. I need to do good in at least one round. He put his hands over his eyes before you could run off again. Librarian approached the two of you. Kids, I've been looking for you. Cove peeked between his fingers at the strangers. Us? You must be Cove. Your dad told me he was waiting by the entrance. Cove blinked, mouth open, like he was going to say something, then glanced down at his pink cast. It was a pretty clear giveaway. Sure. Is my sister Liz with him? She's taller than us and has orange hair. You're Ari, right? You nodded. Phew, I found both of you at once. That's right. She's with him and the little guy with freckles. Come on, let's get you reunited so we can close up for the night. Ready to go home, you and Koa followed him up front, where the ragtag group of family members and Shaloy were all waiting. There you are. She was pouting. You could tell all the way from across the room, and it was only that much more obvious as you got closer. Did you win? We came in second. Hey gang, I thought you had been with them the whole time, Cove. I'm glad you didn't just go off by yourself at least. Cove glanced over at you, then back up at his dad. Me too. A broad smile spread over Mr. Holden's face. Even so, next time, you should. Cove? Cove? Cove's dad glanced around, slightly frantic, but Cove, just like always, had snuck off without thinking. He's leaving. Cove's trying to be the first one in the car. With a sudden burst of speed, Liz darted for the exit, still in Victor-to-be mode, even for something like a race to ride in the front seat. There was nothing else for the three of you to do except head after them, pretending the librarians hadn't noticed all the commotion. Though Lizzie had been victorious in claiming a window seat in the car, you could tell by her crossed arms and occasional pout she still had not forgiven your betrayal. Cove hadn't been happy that she'd shot past him at the last second and that You'd had to sit in the middle between you and Shiloh. Did you say you came in second place? That's some good going. No, it's not. She levied another glare at you over her shoulder. Ah, sure. Striving to improve is good too. That makes Eri the winner in your family. Someone's gotta be. What? Eri kept finding me in our game. I lost. I could have done better if we had more time. Hide and seek with just you two? That doesn't even count as winning. Why not? It's not special. There's no judges or prizes. You eyed the seat that she'd fought so hard to win. That wasn't much of a prize either. Dad? Yes? You could see Ko's dad eyes in the rearview mirror, suddenly attentive as his son's call. We need a prize. As a matter of fact, Mr. Holden's focused intently on the road ahead, though a suitable reward to please Cove might appear before him. Right, the big thing on the flyer for this was a chance to get a free pizza coupon, wasn't it? How about I call up a takeout place and we can have pizza from home for dinner. At home for dinner. Lizzie huffed and pulled her arms across her chest. Is Mom even gonna let you take a pizza from Mr. Holden? Well, we'll see. I'll ask her. I'll talk to all of your moms about this. You whooped. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Yeah, thanks, Dad. You're welcome. I do what I can. But you really should have stuck with the group. The quiz would have been fun. That was the plan when I dropped you off. We stayed together, and I didn't leave the library. I'm glad for that. I am. There's a lot of trouble you can get into, even if you have a buddy along the ride. Just be careful next time. I worry about you. I bet Eri's parents wouldn't want them to run off unexpectedly either. Okay, son? Okay. That's my boy. Now enough gruff from your old dad. Let's decide what kind of toppings we're gonna get. Pepperoni. Sounds good. Anything else? As the conversation continued from there, with debates on what was the best on a pizza the rest of the drive. Mr. Holden wanted anchovies, and the other three kids in the car had to band together explaining how gross they were. The way Coven's dad laughed in the front seat made you wonder if he was doing it on purpose. Still, the promise of pizza was appealing, even if it did have to come with a mandatory side order of Cove. It was a shame that you hadn't been able to do the quiz, but skipping it for just 1 year didn't hurt. It was worth it. Oof. I don't know why I'm so tired. We didn't get up till 4. It's only 2. Ghosties. I'm guessing... Nah. It's too early to be Halloween. The night was incredibly still. I really couldn't ignore how silent it was. It was the most eerie. You could even hear Liz snoring in the next room over. It was hard to believe how much of a blur today was. Summer sure did slip right past you. You flicked through the moments like pages in a scrapbook as you laid in bed. You thought a lot about what adventures you could have tomorrow until sleep started to catch up to you. Then you heard something scrape against the window. It wasn't that uncommon for the wind to push a tree branch against the glass. Summer breezes were the worst sometimes. But the more you tried to ignore it, the louder it seemed. It was like something was trying to get your attention. You lift your head off the pillow to get a better look. Nothing was there. Nothing you could see, at least. You just went back to bed. It was only your imagination. You had to investigate the mysterious sound. It's too creepy to ignore. Okay. I would have just gone back to bed, but for the sake of this, we're going to investigate. You practically jumped out of bed and crept down the stairs to go outside. Your moms were still awake. They stayed up so late, it seemed. Luckily, they were watching TV and didn't hear the soft click of the front door opening as you slipped past. You looked around the neighborhood a few seconds, checking over each individual house. It looked normal, but it didn't feel that way. You knew you weren't supposed to be out here right now. It was exhilarating. It made you your decision. It scared you. I would be scared, especially at night. I was afraid to go outside. Still don't like going outside at night. Still scary. You didn't know what had come over you. If something bad happened, no one would know where you had gone, and the thought of that made your stomach tighten in fear. The ease which you had slipped out only served to make you feel worse. Your moms didn't need to be vigilant because they had trusted you not to do exactly what you were doing. Airy. You twitched it all of a sudden, immediately calming down upon seeing Cove walking up to you. It was strange, yet also completely normal to have him appear like that, like this right now. What are you doing? I saw you standing around in the middle of the street from my window. You weren't sleeping either? Why not? Cove turned up his lip in a smile, almost as if he were amused by the question. Because? Did you hear a weird noise? You should be in bed. Because of what? I'm glad you're here. Let's ask him if he heard the noise. You could tell you hit the nail on the head by the way his eyes widened. Yeah, you knew? I heard it too. That's why you came out, huh? Cove hesitated for a moment, looking down the street before his aquamarine eyes fell on you again. Did it scare you? Mostly a little. Me too. Me too. The two of you delicately smiled at that. Cove even chuckled a bit, as it was nice that you both felt the same way about things. It was kind of a wonder if it was the wind, but what if it's not? What if it's a person? What if something that's not a person? Then noise suddenly rushed through the air, and Cove and you flinched. It sounds even worse than before. You were about to agree with him when the noise came yet again, tearing through the silent night. Two of you rapidly looked around, trying to figure out the source, but to no avail. There was no sign, no answer to this puzzle. You thought that it could be anything. It had to be a ghost. There'd been a regular reason for it. When I was a kid, everything was a ghost. So, the invisible creepy thing luring children from their beds, it had to be a monster. You were torn between the curiosity of discovering what the noise really was and being scared enough to want to run straight home, hide under the bed covers. Hey, can you tell where it's coming from? Not really. Then we'll have to look more somewhere else. Maybe we'll see something. Okay, let's go. Okay, but children wandering out at night? Not a good idea. I thought we were just going to look out the window. I did not sign up for this. The two of you walked along the familiar streets of your neighborhood, sharing the sidewalk and whatever amount of courage you had between each other. Shadows cut corners in the angles where you didn't expect them, disorienting the features you saw every day. The noise came again, shrill and hard. It set your teeth on edge the way it ground its way through you. Cove's throat bobbed, his eyes glistening in the dim light. You stayed frozen to the spot. You took a deep breath, calm yourself. You confronted him. You offered your hand. You focused ahead. I would have had to hold his hand. I would be scared. I'd be like, hold my hand. Hold me. It was what your moms did when you were Lizzie were scared. And it always made you feel better. It just felt right to do it for him now. Co's mouth opened wordlessly. There was a pause, but ultimately he accepted the offer. Your hands were nervous and sweaty as Co's was now. Mine are sweaty. Mine are actually sweaty right now. Like, that's not great. But you know, you do what you gotta do. Sweaty palms, gotta be it. Cove shut his eyes and pressed his lips together. Your fingers locked around each other even tighter. Where did you want to check? The park? The beach? The hills behind my house. Okay. Let's check the park. The private playground was empty as ever, yet the mysterious sound could still be heard, hanging heavy and ominous in the air. But you kept going forward, you ran away, you snuck back to your neighborhood quietly. Okay, we're already here. We gotta keep going. You couldn't stop when you had already gone so far. You had to find out what was going on. Cove was practically shaking when he realized it regressed far enough to reach there. He swallowed hard, but faced you with a determined face. My dad says, good detectives work start at home. He watches a lot of crime shows, so maybe it could be good to look closely. Okay. The two of you swept through every corner of the park. No monkey bar, swing, or tire went unchecked. The two of you could conduct your separate investigations without conversation. If you'd found anything that might explain the noise, you would have brought it to the other's attention. At one point, Cove seemed to take an interest in something he had found in the sand, but he pocketed it without showing you. Even though you had exhausted all possible places in search of the park, the sound still rang through the air, mocking you. Should we look somewhere else? We're already here, so let's check the beach. The beach stretched out in front of you, nothing in sight along its sand, no matter which way you turned. Part of you had imagined the noise as some creature of the deep washed up on the shore calling for aid. The theory had to be taken off the list for now. Still, you spent enough time on the shore to know that the real finds often required a sharp eye and careful attention. The sound was no more than a whimper now. Emboldened, you kept your head high and walked along the sand. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything here. Cove began to comb the beach for clues. You followed suit. The angry wind sent grains of sand across the beach like waves. You stayed clear of the water, which was rough and choppy tonight, and sourced the area for hints as to what might be happening. You were too warped in your own search to imagine the possibilities behind the noise to pay attention to what Cove was up to, but you occasionally glanced up to make sure he hadn't vanished. You saw a little white point jutting out amongst the sand. You bent down and brushed the grains away. It was like an archaeologist on TV uncovering I can't pronounce that. A shell. What a shell. You ran your fingers over its bumps and curves, admiring the little shell. Holding it to your ear, you heard the usual waves. Though your find was undoubtedly special, it was unconnected to the mysterious noise. That was okay. That meant you could take it home safely and add it to your collection. As you contemplated your options, it occurred to you hadn't heard the noise for a while. Cove, I think it's gone. Cove perked up at this. You watched as he listened for the scary sound become background noise in your adventure. You're right. You busted awkwardly in the now silent night. Without mystery call to lead you, there wasn't a reason to stay out here any longer. Night was still as you walked home, with none of the usual background noise or the eerie whistle from before. You could hear every step, and Cove made it like a cough. Every step you and Cove made like a cough in a movie theater. Two of you came to a halt outside your front doors. Never before had it looked so ominous. Looks like they haven't called the cops, so I'm probably alright. Do you sneak out a lot? This is my first time? Not really. Lots. You were lying. Lots. You were telling the truth. I didn't sneak out. I didn't even sneak out in high school. I just didn't. Yeah, I never tried to do it till now. Thought so. How'd you know? I hadn't seen you out of my window this late before. That was fair. Though it could have been possible you were just so good at sneaking that this was the first time he had caught you. Are you worried about getting caught? No. He was so forthright that you believed him completely. But your dad, won't he get mad or sad if he catches you? He's never happy with what I do. Oh. You sympathize. You encourage Cove to see it more positively. You stayed out of it. You didn't know how to react to that. I say we stay out of it. That's none of our business. Huh. It wasn't your place to judge Cove's relationship with his dad. He knew a lot more about it than you did. All right, I'm going in. Okay, good night. Good night. You turned the doorknob as slowly as a clock minute hand, holding your breath. A little telltale click of the lock, then nudged open. With all that had happened was the door opening rather than blaring alarm you'd feared to melt with relief. Back inside your house, you were surprised to find your mom still watching TV. Weird still, it looked like they were on the same show that they were watching before you left. Yet you were positive you'd been out investigating for hours. Perhaps you could use their distraction to your advantage. If you could just get up the stairs, you'd be safe from mom's suspicion. But how could you get there? You tried to sneak past. You decided to walk in your own house nonchalantly. You couldn't. You have to come clean. Sneak. You held to the wall as you crept delicately around the perimeter of the room. It was a valiant effort that any spy would have been proud of, right up until the moment when you tripped over a power cord and nearly fell over. Eri, you might have fallen, but your accident didn't ruin your cover. You had been spotted. They abandoned the couch, their show, to hurry over. They were still in a state of surprise. You weren't in trouble yet. What are you doing down here, sweetie? Did you have a bad dream? Okay. So, we're trying not to get caught for sneaking out of the house. We gotta lie. You couldn't bring yourself to own up to what you had done. I heard a scary noise, so I came down here. Their surprise gave way to concern. Honey, Mom took you by the hand and led you up the stairs. Oof, your hand is cold. Why didn't you come over to us? I was supposed to be in bed. You won't ever be in trouble for coming to us when you're frightened. We'd much rather you came to us than try to solve things all by yourself. Her phrasing made you feel bad. The nervousness ate at you as you were tucked into bed. Your mom assumed that your flushing and insistence on delving under your covers was part of your fear and spoke to you softly until you calmed down enough to peep out from under your sheets. Once your moms had left, you turned over the night's adventures in your mind. It was so hard to believe you'd really done it, and we had gotten away with it. It was harder still to believe that you had gotten away with it. Even now, you're half expecting to be caught somehow. Perhaps you'd left the door ajar, or trailed sand where they'd already swept up. You'd wondered how Cove's dad handled his return. Cove hadn't been at all scared about his dad's reaction. Wheeling down deeper underneath the sheets, you thought turned to what the noise could have been. Nothing had been solved tonight, but that wasn't so bad. There was a lot of mystery in the world. Your thoughts morphed into dreams, carrying you to more and more outlandish visions of what might lay behind the strange sounds. The next morning proceeded mostly like usual, but your mom seemed to be giving extra consideration since finding you last night. You later learned Clove didn't end up in trouble for the nightly escape either. It was unclear whether that was because his dad chose not to punish him or if Cope got away with it. It was amazing to you. It all worked out for both of you. As for the sound that started in the nights, the adults around were convinced it was nothing more than the wind. For your imaginative mind, that wasn't nearly enough. How could they accept something so simple so easily? Maybe it made more sense when you were grown up too. Oh, adorable, might I just say. Oh my god, it's almost 3. I clicked the park, right? You'd been brought along to the big park today, which did an excellent job of living up to its title. The park near your house, with its land playground equipment, wasn't even a quarter of the size of the expansive grass and trees lay before you now, as it was in the next town over, and too far for you to walk by yourself. You didn't get to visit it much, and so you soaked up the environment. Another difference between this park and the one in your neighborhood was this one had visitors other than you, Lizzie, Shiloh, and Cove. Today, it was the busiest you'd ever seen it, thanks to community get-together luring people in from all over the local area with promise of barbecue and fireworks. Your family and Cove's were just two of many, what seemed like dozens of cars were parked up already when you had arrived. You saw Cove hesitate as he took in the growing gaggle of strangers, while your mommy, Lizzie, bounced on the balls of her feet, barely containing her excitement. The crowd made you nervous. You couldn't wait for the fireworks. You looked forward to meeting more kids. You'd rather have stayed home. Your tummy was already rumbling for the food to come. Even if it was bigger, this park wasn't as special as the one back home. Crowds made me nervous. We're gonna go with that. You couldn't avoid coming to the event. Mommy had told you that the people running the community events weren't charging for it, but she wanted them to get something in return. Which is why you'd not been allowed to touch the beautifully iced cupcakes she had carried on her lap during the drive over. It was a special treat for them. Every time the car made a turn, she'd clutch the box tight enough for her knuckles to strain, much to everyone else's amusement. Mr. Holden's contribution to the party, a huge pack of juice boxes, was tucked under his arm after being retrieved from the car's trunk. You'd bet there had been no such dramatics around that cargo getting here in one piece, but the boxes did lack the beautiful shimmer of Mommy's treasured cupcakes. Okie dokie, everyone, all set. Should be. Cove, did you put on sunscreen before we left? Yeah, I always do. You don't have to tell me. Mr. Holden deflated in his attempt for caring for his son, rebuffed, but he triumphed with a smile. Good kid, I don't want you to get burned or dehydrated either. It'll be a busy day. Don't think there's going to be any risk of that second part. Mom nodded at the tables up ahead, laden with all kinds of food and drink. She was right. There was plenty to go around. The parents headed over with you, Lizzie, and Cove trailing after them. A bunch of grown-ups were clustered around there, chatting, but you were more intrigued by what's on the tables. Some of it was familiar: chilled meats, sliced vegetables, big bags of chips, but there was a lot you didn't recognize. Your moms had said that you weren't to touch the food until they said it was time to eat. But you didn't see the harm in taking just a little. You wanted to listen to the rules. You didn't want to risk getting caught. I was really weird. I followed basically every rule, especially when it came to the food, just because that's the kind of kid I was. So we're going to go with that. We wanted to listen to the rules. We just snuck out the night before, okay? You felt that was important. You saw that Mommy and Mr. Holden had deposited the food and drinks they had brought. Mommy gave her cupcakes one final worried look before turning to you with a smile. Since that's the topic at hand, how about we freshen up with something to drink? Yeah! That'd be great. Along with the ones out, there was a giant ice cooler on the ground, stuffed full of cans of soda, boxes of juice and milk, as well as bottles of water. Your drink was... Okay. On days we went to the park and things, it was one of the few days we were allowed to have soda. The bubbles in the soda tickled your nose as you gulped it down. The little group took a break while everyone quenched their thirst. Mr. Holden smacked his lips, pantomiming enjoyment. That hit the spot, but you kids should go have fun. You can take your stuff with you and join the other kids playing games. Just don't go too far from the tables. I want to move the mic, but I also know it could turn off my camera, so we're going to leave it. We'll be keeping an eye out, so don't even think about sneaking off. We're not going to the other parents of the park today. Lizzie huffed at their comments. They did sound directed at her, but she scanned the surroundings, nodding her head towards the group of kids like a general directing their battalions. She pointed the way. Come on, let's go over there. Ko's mouth was downturned as he looked from the parents and the other adults to the new kids, clearly not favoring either position. But ultimately, he hunched his shoulders and tagged along after Lizzie. Went to play with the other kids too? You stuck with your parents? I was that weird kid who loved kids, but in new environments, I tended to stick with my parents. Considering we're at a park, I have to take that into account too. When we were at the park, I was fine with going with other kids, so. You followed after Lizzie Cove and who were waiting for you on the outskirts of the group of parents. Hurry up! You picked up the pace, moving into a jog, but when Lizzie pelted it away at full speed, you and Cove had no choice but to break into a run. The other kids were far out in the field, still at your speed. It wasn't long until you'd reached them. As you approached, they turned around to greet the newcomers. Hi, I'm Lizzie. Alright, my TV turned on. Hello, Amazon. Oh, it needs to update. Hi, I'm Lizzie. This is my little sibling, Ari. The one with the cast is Cove. Hi. Cove simply lifted a hand in greeting. There was a chorus of hellos and names from other kids. One of the kids looked to be about Lizzie's age or older. A couple seemed to be the same age as you and Cove, and there was one tiny little thing with his arms folded over his chest. What are you up to? The first kid, a boy with curly black hair and neon green sneakers, who'd introduced himself as Hayden, shrugged as he looked at the others. Not much. The second kid piped up. Lisa had a half of her face obscured behind huge glasses she wore. We haven't decided yet. She glanced wistfully over her shoulder, following her gaze. You saw the spray of water. First, you heard the shriek of someone as someone got splashed in the face before you spotted a person shooting them. Some people are playing with water guns, but there aren't any left. The smallest kid, Noah, grumbled at that. You guessed that's why he was sulking. Spencer, who hadn't said much, patted his shoulder. So that's out. A new kid raced over with a glint in her eyes, and her braids streamed behind her. You spotted the plastic orange pistol in her hand. Too late, when the trigger already been pressed. Ack! Rude! Hey! Lizzie, who'd been caught first, was fuming. Cove wiped water from his face. You rubbed at your ear, trying to dislodge the water that had pooled there. Don't spray people. You laughed. Watch out, he has a cast. You pushed away. Watch out, he has a cast. I'm that kid. Worried you looked at Cove's plastered arm, you knew that he had to be careful with it around water. It's okay. The girl simply darted off to find more victims, unaffected by your reaction. She doesn't mean anything by it. Lizzie tutted, flickering her hair out of her face. The girl not meaning anything by it didn't change the fact that she'd been sprayed. Cove looked similarly unimpressed. Lisa's face lit up as she had an idea. Hey, we should catch her. She won't be able to spray people if she's running away from everybody. Yeah. Cove nodded as the other kids murmured in their interest, or the lack of it, in the game. Let's do it. Does this sound like a good idea to me? Okay, you nod along. No. I accidentally hit a thing, but I know how to go back. No thanks, you shook your head. Honestly, that doesn't sound fun. What are you with no thanks, even though that's what I hit anyway? He sat on the sidelines as the other kids chased after the girl with a pistol. Spotting them racing after her, she laughed and shot her pistol in the air. Only a couple of drops squeezed out. She swerved, causing discord with the group as they stumbled over each other and uncoordinated attempts of turning. Go, go, you clapped. You watched quietly. I would be like, go, go, run, Forrest, run. You cheered for the kids about to pounce on their target. The gap between the hunter and the hunted was narrowing. Eyes wide, you watched as Lisa lunged and tackled her friend to the ground. Got her! Panting, she punched the air with triumph, then pushed her glasses back up the bridge of her nose. The girl who had been caught giggled as she got to her feet, brushing strands of grass from her knees. Smiling, Cove came to a stop. Lizzie whooped, delight clapping her hands. The boy with the bright sneakers grinned. You're it now. Catch us if you can. Yeah. I'll do it. You won't get away from me. They all dispersed, squealing and laughing as they tried to evade capture. The sour mood from earlier had evaporated entirely, replaced by a light, playful atmosphere. Several rounds later, when most of the kids had taken at least one turn as it, the scent of smoke wafted up to your nose. Caught by surprise, you looked up and found the brilliant blue of the sky had turned orange and the sun had sunk down to the horizon. With all of the excitement, you'd lost track of time completely. Looking over, you saw people standing over the grill, poking them to life. It was nearly time to eat. We should all get over there. I'm so hungry. Our parents are at different spots. Yeah. Bye. It was cool playing. Yep. Bye. Sorry, that's just how I like to say bye. See you. You waved goodbye to the other group of kids before hurrying over to your parents with Lizzie and Cove. A tickle unfurled in your throat, growing more persistent as you came closer to the source of the smoke. As the three of you approached the table, your parents spotted you and came to join you halfway. You tried to greet them, but another cough obstructed your words. Woof, that's quite a cough. Are you alright, sweetie? You nodded confidently. I'm fine. No, you shook your head. I was one of those kids, if I was sick, my parents knew. But I also, a lot of the times, if I was doing something I didn't want to. I'm fine. Are you sure? No one needed to go up to the grills if they don't want to. Just let me know. No need to go up to the grills if they don't want to. Just let me know what you need. There was no response from the other two kids here. I can get it myself. I can do it. You marched over to the grills. Can you get it for me? Please, could you get it for me? You hung your head, moving no closer. The thing is, my mom got a lot of my foods at grill parties just because I didn't like to eat a lot. So she had to be like, here's what you're eating. Please eat it. And I'd be like, okay, fine. But you know what? We're going to march over to the grills. You hold your horses. The rest of us come with you. The main thing being served is kebabs. You can have whatever you'd like on it. There's different meats and veggies. As you approached, you found the variety of rated bits and pieces ready to be skewered and served up. You chose. I'm a chicken person. I love shrimp. Zucchini. Onions. Potatoes don't feel like they belong on a skewer. Peppers. Pork and beef, and that's just not my thing. Sounds good to me. The veggies will be good for you. I was that kid who loved vegetables. Or I didn't like broccoli or asparagus though. Everything else was fine. Order given, you waited for your food to be ready. Liz headed towards you, having issued her own request. Hi again! I heard what you ordered. I'm getting a chicken kebab with all 3 colors of peppers. Noticing Cove approach, she turned to him. What are you having? Why does it matter? I don't know. I was just asking. I'm getting beef and shrimp with all the vegetables except onions. Lizzie hummed while evaluating his response. That's okay, I guess, but chicken is definitely the better one. Then you can eat all of the chicken. I'm going to. I want some of the chicken too. All the chicken in the world. Chicken is the worst. This is a stupid argument. Chicken is the best choice. This is a stupid argument. Yeah, it is. This isn't an argument. We already finished. Izzy peered over the grills. The kebabs were being handed out. A growing assortment of kebabs collected in your parents' hands. They come over. They're coming over. Don't get jealous of mine when you realize you made the wrong choice, Cove. I didn't make the wrong choice. There isn't a wrong choice. We all made a good choice. Same to you, Lizzie. You sigh. Okay, I was the kid who was just like, there's no wrong choice. But I'm gonna be sassy. Same to you, Liz. She simply stuck her tongue out in retort. The person serving gave your mommy one final kebab, then your parents moved to rejoin you. Between them, they were carrying 6 kebabs, one for each of you, including Cove and Mr. Holden. We've got the goods. Cove's dad is looking for a place we can sit. In the meantime, they began passing out the kebabs and the rightful owners. Liz smiled smugly as she received hers. These are pretty big. Be careful not to drop it. Try not to poke yourselves with the ends either. They're sharper than you might think. Hearing that, you tentatively pushed the tip of the skewer against your finger. It felt like the point of a newly sharpened pencil. Though it didn't hurt your hand, you wouldn't want to scrape the roof of your mouth or jab your tongue. Mommy chuckled her tongue. It wouldn't be nice if the options were a little easier to manage and less messy, especially for smaller kids. There aren't even plates for anyone, so we could set the food down for a second. That's what you get for the price of free. But we can't hack it. But we can hack it, right? Liz nodded her head, vigorously clutching her kebab like a trophy. Your parents led you back to the tables. It was immediately evident why Mr. Holden had been sent to scout one. The benches had quickly filled up as people got their food. Mr. Holden was standing over a corner section near the edge of the sitting area. He beckoned your group to join him. You clambered onto the bench, taking care not to let your kebab slip from your fingers. Further along the table, Cove perched next to his dad, while Liz took the space next to you. Your mom passed the final unclaimed kebab to Mr. Holden. Thanks, this looks delicious. Thank you for getting us a space out here. I'm sorry if I read a little emotionlessly. I'm not used to reading things out loud for people. Perhaps it had been the delicious smell that had filled the air, along with the smoke that had so irritated your throat. Mr. Holden, what do you do? Well, I do a lot of things. Do you play golf? Only if you count mini golf. One look at Lizzie's stricken face confirmed that she did not. She could enjoy the occasional round of mini golf places, especially if she had an audience to impress, but your sister took her passion very seriously. Even then, it's been years since I gave it a shot. Cove groaned at the feeble pun. Mom chuckled. You weren't sure if she was responding to the joke, Cove's annoyance, or Lizzie's offense. Just as well, she'd be dragging you out to the green every week. Ugh, my neck. That's because I've got dedication. You need to get a good drive or two to get far. Mr. Holden nodded, clicking his tongue in appreciation. Cove looked from his father to your sister, lost in the conversation. Outclassed in golf and wit. I don't get it. I wouldn't get either if I didn't live with her. I have to hear this stuff all the time. You should get a real golf try. Maybe I'll even teach you some tricks. Don't try to change my dad to be more like you. Liz gave Cove a dirty look at the accusation. Mom felt the need to move the topic ahead before it got heated. Fair, though. That's really sweet of you, but I'm sure Mr. Holden is busy. He might not have time for another hobby. Yeah, I don't think I'm made for that. Still, the offer is appreciated. Then tell me something you do already. You just gotta go away every day. I like scuba diving, though with the business, that's more work than play. These days, surfing and reading, snorkeling. Those are things Cove's like. Wow, it's a good thing you live by the beach. Stay quiet. I would be that kid. Mr. Holden exaggeratedly puffed out his chest. What can you say? My boy's got a good taste. He takes after his dad in that way. The sun had been setting when you'd got your food. By the time you'd finished, the night truly had fallen. Your sticky fingers were only remaining evidence of your meal. The kebabs had been great combination, more than the sum of its parts. The seasoning of freedom to choose every ingredient yourself was what made it something to remember. Rising from the table, Mommy held up her water bottle. Okay, now that the food is gone, you've got to wash your hands. Erie, Lizzie, please hold them out. Um, Lizzie complied, coming over and cupping her hands together in front of her. Mommy splashed some water over her fingers and Lizzie rubbed them together, working off any residue. Here. Mom passed her a paper towel from her purse and Liz used it to dry off her hands. Your turn, Aerie. You readily held out your hands to catch the water. Begrudgingly, you lifted your hands up. You didn't move. I don't need to. I was that kid. I was like, I don't need to wash my hands. Aerie, you can't go around with food covering you. Seeing the weight of both your mom's eyes on you, you reluctantly held out your hands and washed them. Nearby, Kove had taken his own course of action, wiping his hands on his pants, leaving stains where his fingers had been. Mr. Holden shook his head. Let's clean that off, pal. He scrubbed the fabric with a scrunched up napkin. Dad, it's not that bad. When everyone was cleaned up, or as clean as they could be, with the limited facilities, Mom spoke up. Let's go make one last check at the coolers and restock on drinks before the fireworks show. No time. We have to get a good spot. Everywhere's gonna be taken. How about I go ahead and save a space again? You can meet up with me in the field after getting drinks. I'm going with Kove's dad. I'll find the perfect place. Sure thing. I could use an extra pair of eyes. Mommy shook her head ruefully at Lizzie, even more enthusiastically than usual attitude. All right. Me, Cliff, and Lizzie go find a place to sit. Pam, Kove, and Aerie, you want to go get the drinks? Okay. You nodded. Okay, I'll get the stuff we need. No, I want to help pick a spot. I don't want to get drinks. You consider your options. I was the person who was like, yeah, drinks. As Mommy, Lizzie, and Mr. Holden headed off towards the wide open field, there was a fire where the fireworks were being set up. You joined Kove and Mom in the return to the cooler where you'd picked up drinks earlier. Even as you approached, you suspected you wouldn't find much in it. Where it had originally been stocked to the brim, it was now half empty. The ice, which had cushioned the drinks, kept them cold, was largely melted, with only a handful of pieces floating like tiny icebergs. Slim pickings. The drinks that remained looked to be bottles of plain water, but you caught a glimpse of something more colorful amongst them. Mom rummaged around the cooler, excavating a couple juice boxes from the bottom in the process. Aha! Aerie, Kove, you can take one of those if you want. Perks of helping. You took the juice box for yourself. You only took the water bottles. You took a juice box to share and a water bottle for yourself. I'm gonna take that. Kove hesitated but decided to take the juice box for himself. When you were each loaded up with your chosen drinks plus an extra bottle or two for someone else in the group, Mom's blood started to ring. She juggled the water bottles over onto the crook of her arm and looked at the collar. It's Mommy. Hold tight while I get this. Hey, hun, how's it going? Did you find a perfect spot already? She nodded along to her call, punctuated by uh-huhs, and as Mommy gave her direction catching her eye, she gestured towards the grassy area. We've got a place. Come on, we'd better hurry before the show starts. You and Kove jogged after your mom, who led you through the field, and the serrated groups of people assembled there back to the rest of your families. Hello, we're here. We come bearing drinks, though there wasn't much left. The three of you handed over the spare drinks. You gave Lizzie a bottle of water. She only had eyes for your juice box. Aerie and Kove have juice. They help get drinks. You got to pick where we sat. Don't be selfish. I'm not. Good. Then you're going to thank us for bringing you your very own water bottle. Thanks. Once everyone had been equipped with a beverage for the big event, we sat on the grass near your family and waited for the magic to begin. Most people in the park had taken seats now, with a few stragglers silhouetted in the back tables in the distance. A few rambunctious kids were still dashing about, but their number was steadily decreasing as their parents called them over and restored order. Someone bearing a cardboard box weaved through the groups, pausing every so often. You nudged Lily and pointed. What are they doing? Looks like they're handing something out. I can't make out what it is. I hope it's not drinks. Mommy chuckled, but Lizzie and Cove were now watching the bestower of mysterious goods keenly. Are they going to come to us too? Mom softly put her hands on top of your sister's shoulders if she feared Lizzie might bolt over to the stranger. Lizzie didn't even glance at her, eyes locked on the potential prize. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I would be intrigued. Studying the man with the box closely, he gradually meandered near. You couldn't make out what he was handing out. Small items to most of the groups he stopped at. These seemed too short to be water bottles, but beyond that, it remained a mystery. The box man made his way to your group. Evening. I'm handing out desserts. Any takers? They're desserts? Lizzie squealed, hopping off the ground. The man chuckled. Oh my god, it's the little ice creams. I remember these bitches. They were good. I always got the chocolate ones. I hated the strawberry. I'm going to take that as a yes. Ice creams on the menu. Vanilla flavored with a twist of either chocolate or strawberry syrup. Nice. None for me though, thanks. Same, but the offer is appreciated. I want chocolate. Can I have strawberry? And a strawberry for me too, please. Now you are going to have to make the decision. Chocolate or strawberry?